Okay, so this episode is long overdue. Jenna and I have been waiting to have a guest like this on, this particular guest for a long time. And whether you're already knee deep into the ganja or thinking about dabbling with cannabis in quarantine for the first time, Hobo Cannabis Company is there for you. Here to talk to us all about bud is Hobo General Manager Nikki and superstar salesperson Christian. Hail Mary Jane, thanks for joining us, guys.
I feel like anyone would be a superstar salesperson at this point.
Yeah.
He is like a superstar sales manager / like expert at all the things. Christian can do all the things. Yeah.
Well, and that's what I love so much about your store is that when you go in there, everybody knows everything. They just do the work for you. I love it, you know, because as someone who has smoked for many, many years, I still feel like I don't know a lot about it.
Well, there's so much to choose from, and there's so much that we didn't know before. I'm the same. I've smoked for years, but I didn't actually know a lot about the strains I was smoking. It was like I bought from a friend, and I was like, "What do you have?" And he's like, "I've got some of this and some of this. What do you want?" And so I'm like, "Sure, I'll take that." And I had no idea. Like, what was it? Sativa? Was it indica? Did it have CBD in it? Did it not? No clue. So now there's so much information. Now we can like pick and choose what it is we want. We can be so much more specific with the kind of feeling we actually want to get, which is so exciting.
And that's what it's all about. Before we get into the different types of feelings, I want to echo what Jenna said about how awesome the staff is. And Nikki, you and I talked a bit about this, but you have a very interesting way of sort of vetting who would fit into the hobo culture. Can you share that?
Yeah. When we opened up the first store in Ottawa, we were just kind of like, okay, well, we've never been to a cannabis store before to kind of figure out what we're looking for. You obviously want people who are passionate. But Jex and I were talking about it, and it was more or less like, could you sit and have a beer with this person? Like, are they chill? Are they comfortable? Are they confident? Are they relaxed? And do they keep you interested? Like, that's basically it. Like, if you could sit down and have a beer with that person, then that's the person I want to go in and talk to and like ask them about my cannabis and figure out, you know, what sort of an experience I want to have.
I think that's statistically how we vote for Prime Minister.
It's so true. So true. The true Canadian way. But, you know, that is a great theory because that's what it feels like when you do go into any of your stores is you just go in, you feel so comfortable asking for whatever it is. You know, I've gone in there and been like, I have this issue. I'm start crying. And the girl at the front was like, I'm so sorry. Smoke this. And I was like, great. Thank you. You solved my issues. Yeah.
Definitely not alone because when I first started going to gray market dispensaries, I had the same issues where I felt like I thought I knew a lot and I get there and I just felt like I knew nothing and I was almost embarrassed to even be there. And that's one of the things that we really try to change at Hobo. When you come in, we don't want you to feel embarrassed to ask anything and we just want to make you feel as comfortable as possible.
Well, and that's kind of, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jesse.
No, I was just going to say it's so important. Like you don't realize when you grow up in high school, you get what your dealer has and, you know, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. And now we can pick and choose.
Yeah, and a big reason we asked and reached out to you guys was because we actually got a letter from a listener and they were like, I've never smoked before, but I'm having depression, I'm having a bit of anxiety. You know, quarantine is making people feel different things. And I was just wondering if you could do an episode kind of on the ABCs and, you know, and I was like, Weed 101. Like, this is a class that we all kind of did take in high school.
Not ABCs. We want the THCs. Hey,
CBDs. Yeah. But we do have like a system at Hobo that makes it easier for people who really don't know a lot about cannabis at all. And it's called our decision tree. So we group everything in feelings. So if you can't say to me that you want a sativa or an indica or that you're thinking about CBD, you can probably tell me how you want to feel. And we can ask you questions to kind of get there. But a lot of it has to do with, you know, we can't give any medical advice. So but we can absolutely, like if you're having pain and you're just saying to me, like, I can't sleep, so I need to be rested. Okay, well, we can help you with things that will generally make people feel very rested. You know, like we can always kind of trim things down based on a feeling of some kind. And so we've got like You know, if you look at our categories, there's like a move category.
Lift.
Yeah, lift category, which isn't quite as high as move. Like move is like social, get you going, and lift is just sort of like, like smile on my face, but I'm still pretty chill.
Daytime around the house.
Yes, it's perfect. And then a balance category that gives you like half THC, half CBD. CBD is like that warm hug from the inside feeling that you want to get. And then we have pure CBD, so it's people who don't really want to get high at all. They just want to have that CBD feeling. And then our indicas are all rest category.
Okay. Well, I want to get into some of those specifics a little bit more. Christian, you kind of just answered this question, but we did get some specific listener questions. One of them comes from the letter that Jenna mentioned that said, I don't want to be too high, but I want to feel a little something, something. So that might be a hybrid option.
Yeah, like hybrids generally just refers to something that is either indica and sativa mixed together. So they've taken one of each plant and kind of let them have babies. So generally what they're looking for when they're looking for a low anxiety strain is something that's either on the lowest of the THC levels or something that has CBD in it as well. Because CBD is not going to give you an intoxicating effect, but it does sort of like relax the mind. It takes away any of the visual distortions and things like that. So
can you explain the difference between indica and sativa? Because a lot of people don't know this.
I mean, a lot of growers don't know this, but the easiest way to really pinpoint it is that indicas grow in colder climates and mountains, and then sativas generally grow in warmer climates. The difference in the effect varies depending on that particular strain, but generally what we say is indica couch.
Yeah. That's super restful. And then sativas are like, you know, are the ones that give you a little bit more energy. They're uplifting. They're, you know, that kind of thing. One
good way to describe it for people who aren't even still not clear is that sativas are going to be high from the eyeballs up.
Yeah.
And the indicas are going to be high from the eyeballs down. So if you don't want that brain super overactive, you probably want to stay away from a sativa.
Okay, see, I didn't even know that. I would always choose indica because I thought sativa wasn't as strong. And when I use it, I like to be able to watch cartoons and go to sleep. You know, it's an end of the day thing for me. So I always thought indica was the only one that would work. But hearing this, sativa could work for that too. It's just your mood might be a little different.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get sativas that are also more on the hybrid side. So something like a White Widow is generally known as a calm sativa. So you could still be energized and not as relaxed or tired, but you're also not going to get that anxiety-inducing effect that some people associate with sativas.
So would sativa be good for this? This question we got from a listener said, which type of weed is good for in quarantine? I'm looking for one that makes you content to stay home and yet productive, not tired and lazy.
Who is content staying home all the time?
For the first week, it was fun.
Yeah.
Definitely sativas could be good for that. I would probably steer away from something in the higher THC levels. So anything around a 15 or lower percent THC sativa is going to be great for daytime. In Hobo, you want something from the lift category.
Yeah.
All of our lift category strains are going to be geared towards that question.
Yeah. Or
let's be honest. Anyone from Ottawa who's going to be shopping after this episode is probably going to be going to Hobo because you guys are doing curbside pickup now, right?
We are, yeah.
Curbside and delivery. So
yeah.
We've just expanded our route for delivery as well. We're trying to get everyone in Ottawa so that they don't have to leave their homes right now.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And another reason we wanted to do this episode, because for people who are maybe beginners, you know, they can't come experience the friendly beer drinking culture at Hobo right now. And so it might be intimidating for a lot of people who don't know what to go and ask for.
Yeah.
So what are the different, okay, well, I don't know, Jenna, I have no like nice segue. I just have some hard questions I want to get to.
Well, I think a lot of people right now are also torn between how to ingest it. Are they going to smoke it? Are they going to vape it? Are they going to eat it? Are they going to take those little THC pills or whatever those things are called? See, like I've taken them. I don't even know what they're called. So, you know, what is the difference between the ways that they are ingested?
Well, you can inhale it. So that's vaping, or smoking joints, whatever you're comfortable with, like flower vapes or concentrate vapes. You can ingest it. So that would be, it's very popular right now for people to try edibles because they're new to market. So we have things like gummies, we have chocolates, we have the beverages, we have teas. So people are really excited about that because a lot of people are put off from smoking, and they're looking to try and get that THC in their body that way.
Right. Now, I know a lot of people who will say this, I don't like smoking it, but I like eating it.
Yeah.
Why do people say that? Is there a difference in the feeling that you feel? Or is it because, edibles for a long time have been homemade?
Well, there is definitely two types of THC. And when you eat an edible or ingest a capsule or an ingestible oil that you would put under your tongue or in your mouth, that is, now I forgot. But the smoking one is delta-9 THC. The other one is 11-hydroxy THC. So when you eat an edible, you're getting 11-hydroxy THC. It's actually a more potent form of THC, which enters the brain almost immediately. So you'll feel nothing, and then you feel everything. Some people really like that feeling. It is more of a tingly body feeling with the 11-hydroxy edible version. When you're smoking it, you're dealing with a chemical compound delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC for short. That one kind of enters through the bloodstream in the cheeks and in the lungs, and it's slowly going to affect the brain over a period of time. Some people find that the smoking hits faster. Edibles generally take you about 45 minutes to an hour and a half to feel them, but they also wear off a lot quicker. So for the edibles, you get a longer gestation period of the effects.
Well, one thing I've noticed, and now I have a lot of questions about edibles, so buckle up. But one thing I've noticed about the come down, I guess if we can call it that, is where if you smoke or vape, you kind of feel that burnout, hazy feeling for the rest of the day, whereas with edibles, you don't. It just sort of goes away, at least for me.
Yeah, everyone's so different because some people will say to us that they don't like edibles because they'll feel it even right up until the next morning, depending on what they're eating. So everyone's body reacts very different to this kind of stuff. I find that I don't feel edibles the next morning. I'm good the next morning either way. But edibles definitely hit me for a longer period of time. Like I'll stay high all night. Like it's, I'll have some chocolates and then it's just, here we go. Whereas smoking, I'll smoke something and then maybe an hour later I'm like, no, I'm ready for another. Like, let's go. Right. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people trying edibles for the first time? Because, there's always the tried, tested, and true advice. Eat some and then wait 45 minutes before you eat any more.
Yeah, and we always say, you're going to hear us say a million times that, like, start low, go slow. Because you really need to know, even with each product, let's say you've tried a chocolate from Tokyo Smoke, you might try a Chowie Wowie chocolate and they might actually hit you differently. So you have to take your time with this stuff. It's very clean now that the government is like testing it and retesting it and making sure that everything is done properly before it gets to market. It's going to hit you differently than anything in the gray market that you're buying because it is exactly the doses that they say it is. Whereas the gray market, it's kind of like a guess, it's probably this much CBD, probably this much THC. But this is very clean and like I say, like everything will hit you a bit different. Every 2.5 gram piece of chocolate hits me differently based on the company that's providing it. They're also getting it from different plants. It's a lot of fun actually to try these different things and to see how they feel and see if you like it. And if you start just microdosing things, like just do them in like a 2.5 milligram dose instead of just going for it and going to the moon. Like if you're, like if you jump into something that's too much for you, you have to ride that out for the rest of the night. No one likes that. Right. So starting low and going slow, you get a little taste of it, see how you feel, stay there for an hour or two and see how it goes. And then you know, you can add on if you want to layer it a little bit more, or you wait until you do it again. Then you know, okay, one piece was great, but now I'm going to try 2 pieces.
Yeah, like just to add to that, I find that everyone has to experiment at the beginning. There's no recommended dose.
Yeah.
One person, another person exactly the same size as that person, exactly the same age, could have a totally different tolerance. So there's no, like a lot of people will say, oh, DNA affects it, genetics and metabolism, what you ate, what you didn't eat. There's no real science behind any of those recommendations. It's literally just the way your body reacts to it. I would say if any of those are the most important, it's metabolism. But we always recommend starting low, because I'll just give you an example. We had a customer who would regularly come in and buy an oil, an ingestible oil, and she was taking exactly the same amount all the time. One day she said, oh, I'll be a little adventurous and I'll double it. And she locked herself in her bathroom for about 3 hours after that, because she just realized that that was way more. Yeah. I had another customer who took even the slightest amount, like 5 milligrams more than they were normally taking. And that was over their limit. So now they knew that their limit was this and not that. So you do have to do a bit of experimentation. If you're worried about the experimenting process, it's also handy to have a little bit of CBD oil or something handy. We find that if you overdo it on the edibles and you take a little of CBD, it can reduce some of the anxiety you might be feeling. Okay. Another good trick that I usually used was just chewing on a black peppercorn out of the pepper grinder. Generally took away some of the over effect that I didn't want, like the psychoactive effect.
You just reminded me of when we were in high school and people were like, no, don't eat, man. You'll ruin your high. You can't eat after you smoke. And you're like, I'm eating after I smoke. Sorry. Isn't that the whole point?
Well, sometimes you can't control yourself.
Yeah. Which we'll talk about. But before we get off edibles, you just kind of blew my mind, because it's kind of like alcohol. Some people are lovers after a shot of tequila and others are ready to fight, like Jenna. So, you know, with edibles, I think people have this false idea that it's a set science, but it can come from different plants and stuff, like you said. So one thing that has been bothering me is I recently purchased some, not from Hobo, but I got 2 kinds. I got a hard candy, like the kinds that you suck on, and then some gummies. And I had been doing the go slow, low, whatever crap for a long time, and it wasn't working. And I vape usually. So I was trying these edibles and I didn't want to overdo it, but nothing was happening. So I was convinced for a couple months that they just don't work on me. So I got these 2 edibles and I started with the hard candy. It was a robot, 120 milligrams. I said, F this, I'm doing the whole thing. I did it. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Next time I did the gummy, same amount, and I was wandering through graveyards, sending Jenna pictures. So, and then I was like, I've got to figure out what the difference is between these 2. So I read the ingredients, and in the gummy, it was made with oil, vegetable oil, but the hard candy, there was no oil or fat in it. And so I've heard this thing about fat being required to absorb it. Is that true?
Absolutely. I mean, there's some truth to it. Absolutely. Because the THC molecules are going to bind to your blood cells better with the fat molecule to attach to. So it can work better that way. If you're eating it with a fat soluble food or something fatty, that they do have a different effect. There is another factor that isn't always talked about, and that's the different types of blending the THC into the edible. So there are 2 types. You can just blend it like you normally would see on the internet, where they're making an oil or a butter. And then there's another one called nano emulsion, and nano emulsion is a much more I guess a high-tech version of it. And this is one of the advantages of the legal companies. And that's what they're doing with the drinks and things, where you're going to feel it within 5 minutes. Because at that point, they've shrunk the size of the THC molecule, so it doesn't need that fat to help it bind to the blood. It becomes more of a water compatible rather than fat compatible.
So, but for some people, like the hard candies that didn't work on me would work for some people. So it's not everybody that needs the fat. It's up to your own physiology.
Yeah, everyone's body's so different. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but before we move on from edibles, if someone was wanting to try edibles, what direction would you point them in? So if they're going to go to your website and take a look, order a pickup, what would you suggest that they order?
Well, I mean, based on how they want to feel again, like we have bars that have, you know, that sativa type feeling that'll lift them up. We have the balance ones. We have the really, really restful ones. So I would choose based on those types of feelings. And then most of those items now with the government, they are all regulated to the point where most of those packages are only 10 milligram packets. So you can't go wrong with the 10 milligram packets. A lot of them are chopped into like either little gummies that are like 2 milligrams each or 2.5 milligrams each. So everything's kind of pieced out for you so that you're guided to microdose everything. So just start in whichever direction you think, and then try one piece. Like nobody is going to freak out over one piece. You're going to have a nice little feeling, or you're not going to feel anything at all, like you said. And then you can go from there. Then you just build on that. Like some people, depending on the product, they don't feel anything until they get to like a full bar or maybe more. Myself, I'm good with like one piece. I can feel it. And then I can, go from there if I want to, depending on the night.
Right.
Usually when they come in, I just want to know whether they want something that's going to keep them up or more on the relaxing side. Once I figured that out, it's more or less determining how high do you actually want to get. And if it's not too much, or if they're a starter, then like Nikki said, we just recommend buying one of those packages that's already divided into smaller increments, so that you can start with one and see if that works. I usually tell people start with one the first day. Don't even try doubling it up after an hour and it didn't work. Wait till the next day. Because realistically, if you double it up, you're still not going to get the same effect as you would have if you took both at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And, maybe there's some people out there that don't want to get high at all. Crazy. But that's where CBD comes in, right?
Yeah. CBD is great. It's so good for your body in so many different ways. Like, CBD is one of those things where now people are like, ooh, we have this thing that has all these wonderful like healing properties to it, and we should all try it. And so lots of people are coming in of all ages, and a lot of like health nuts and people like that too, who are, really focused on the gym and taking care of their body. They're now thinking, okay, I want to put this in my body somehow. So what options do you have? And I mean, again, like you can smoke the flower, you can get the oils, you can get the edibles, you can get teas if you want tea, but CBD is now being offered in all these lovely different forms so that you can try it in a bunch of different ways.
And are people using it to like help regulate pain or sleep or anxiety or all of the above?
All kinds of things.
They're trying it for everything,
Professional sports teams are making CBD, the sport tape.
Oh my gosh. I was talking about someone on a golf course. I'm a former athlete myself. And I went to school at a Div 1 school. And a lot of my friends are football players. And I always said, if only they could have used marijuana back then to help with a lot of those pain issues, instead of having to deal with years and years of opiate addictions. Like, how cool would that have been if we had like our medical tape actually infused with it so that, we could walk after our games without, being covered head to toe in ice. That would have been nice.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say it, but I've served a lot of our Ottawa's pro football and basketball players so far.
Hey man, it's not illegal in the States, like in Canada. So
yeah, exactly.
No, it's great. And even like people like, the UFC has even embraced this and publicly said like, hey, we're starting to do testing on CBD. We're starting to get our athletes involved in this kind of stuff because we think it's going to be really helpful, and they take a shit kicking.
Right. And it's interesting that you said people of all ages too, because I have friends with parents that are a bit older, like in their 70s with rheumatoid arthritis, and CBD oil has changed everything about their pain medication regimen, and they love it and they swear by it. And these were like the kind of old people that didn't really go through the hippies part of the 70s. They were more like, reserved.
You want to know a cute story about that? Is my mom is one of those people. She's got rheumatoid arthritis and she recently discovered CBD, but she did go through the hippie phase. The funny thing is she'll call us sometimes and be like, I think I took too much. I'm feeling all stoned, but it's just pure CBD. So we're like, okay, mom, like whatever makes you feel better,
That's actually a common misconception that you don't get anything from CBD. Because I smoked CBD flower and it felt like Adderall to me. So, you know, you can...
Again, it's different. Yeah, different on the person, right? Yeah.
And it depends on the strain, the particular strain of CBD flower, whether it comes from an indica or a sativa, how much THC is also in it. So if you're getting pure CBD, it's probably not going to give you that effect, but there is different effects. So some people think CBD is non-psychoactive, but it's actually just non-intoxicating.
Okay.
Oh.
It does actually trigger an effect in the brain. It is psychoactive. It's just not what we associate with being high.
Well, I'll apologize to Mom on behalf of Christian. He was right.
Sorry, Donna.
When you smoke like a joint, and back to high school, you're smoking a joint outside, are you getting both THC and CBD from smoking traditionally?
It depends on how traditional. If you were smoking it in the 60s and the 70s, you probably were, because weed back then did have a higher CBD content. We've since bred it out in the strains that we've brought to market. So a lot of the plants now that you would buy are bred to have higher THC amounts. And when you do that, you lower the natural CBD content. So now in order to get strains that are both CBD and THC, you have to actually ask for them.
Okay. See, we're learning.
Sorry?
It's funny when Jenna and I get kind of quiet and think, you can tell we're actually learning. We're like, oh my God, we got to remember those.
I don't want to interrupt with the general theme of the show here.
Right. Yeah. What do you, taking notes like on my hand?
I am.
What would you consider a high THC level?
In the legal market?
Yeah.
Legal market, high THC is anywhere from 18 to 25% generally.
Yeah.
Okay.
The legal market is at 30%. I've yet to see one.
Yeah.
The highest I've seen is about 27, 28%.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, generally the ones that people start drooling when they smoke that.
What I like.
Yeah. I think you even had one at Hobo called Dream something. I remember one time I was in there and I saw really high THC and I was like, sold. And it wasn't even that expensive.
Yeah.
Probably the Dreamweaver. I love that one.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think a lot of people too don't understand that there is a difference in prices too. If they've never been to one of these stores, you're used to being like $5 for a joint, $10 for 3 joints from like back in high school. So I hear. So you guys do have an array of prices, right? You have an array of prices, right?
Well, yeah, it's kind of like back to like sort of the beer talk. You've got like, you know, some craft growers who are hand picking things and who are really spending their time on you know, producing a higher quality plant with a really high level of THC, or even just a really nice array of terpenes.
Or very rare strains.
Yeah, or very rare strains. So you're going to spend a little bit more for that. And then you've got other companies who are, you know, able to grow a ton of plants all at once. They can mass produce like, you know, a Blue Dream strain or an MK Ultra, and then you can buy them a little bit cheaper. Like it's so cool to see how this is all evolving. And you've got your premium, you've got your mid-level, and you've got your cheap, just, you know, less than $10 a gram. Like, this is what I need kind of cannabis. It's all going to get you high. It's just all based on what you're looking for. Like, you know, what kind of experience you want to have.
I would add that like the price doesn't always reflect, like, if you're shopping online and you see $50 for 3.5 and you see another one for 25, just because that one's $50 doesn't mean it's going to be better than the 25.
That's a good point. It's kind of like wine. Like, sometimes you can buy a $15 bottle of wine and it's so good. And then you can buy a $50 bottle of wine and you're like, this is shit. So it's just exactly the same. Your body's going to receive it in a way that works so great with you. And that's how you want to make your decisions.
Okay. This is great. We're like in the early days. This is like when alcohol first got invented and everybody was like judgy-wudgy about it. And now look, so, you know, we're doing a good service here. One thing I remember from high school too is all the weed haters would be like, don't smoke weed. It's like 4 cigarettes. One joint is like 4.
I was one of those people.
Oh, please, Nikki. Is it true?
You know, this, in terms of like education and learning and all this stuff, it's good for people to understand that your body is set up to receive cannabis. You have like, your whole body has an endocannabinoid system inside of it. So that means that when you smoke cannabis, it can actually take the cannabinoids that it's receiving from the cannabis, and it's like, okay, this belongs here. Okay, this is going to go here. We're going to do this with that. So in comparison to other things you can put in your body, like alcohol or nicotine, your body doesn't necessarily know what to do with those things. So cannabis, it's like, it's ready for it. Like it's already set up for this. And a lot of people don't understand that. I didn't understand that until I started getting into this kind of stuff and learning. Like that makes a huge difference to me. Now I'm so much more open in like experimenting with it and understanding how, like, you know, why things might react really positively for me and why things might react negatively for me. Like it's a lot healthier for you than what you think it is.
Well, and it's a good argument for that argument that it's natural, right? It's in us. Yeah.
Yes.
And you don't have to smoke it anymore. Like that's the thing, is you don't have to smoke it. If you are worried about your lungs, if maybe you have an underlying condition like asthma or something, then yes, you don't have to. There's other ways you can do it.
Yeah, even if you're still stuck on the smoking idea, there are ways to mitigate the damage you're going to do through that inhaling of the carbon dioxides and stuff. Dry herb vaporizers are awesome because you're not actually burning anything in a dry herb vaporizer. And so the black tar we get in our lungs, that's from the burning of the plant material. Whereas if you're just heating it up and releasing the chemical, the THC or the CBD.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, exactly, right there. So
I have one.
I have one too, but it's bigger. Hey-o!
Oh, hello.
I mean, I come from the music industry, and there's not a singer out there who partakes in cannabis who is still smoking joints. I can tell you that.
Right. Yeah.
Is it addictive?
So it depends on your definition of addiction. So I did a lot of addiction studies in university, and I would say that you really have to look at what is addiction to you. It can become a dependency for sure. And, you know,
so can eating sugar.
So can, exactly.
You know
Just
what I
like
mean? Like,
coffee.
exercise can become a dependency. You can become addicted to exercise. Is your body going to go through withdrawals when you stop doing it? Not as necessarily. That's the main thing that people are worried about.
That is, I think, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And coffee, sugar, exercise, weed, sign me up for all four. Thank you.
I know, exactly, yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're almost out of time, but I have two more listener questions. One, I really want to know, how come some people get super stoned eyes and others not at all?
Oh.
Well, one thing I found personally is if I smoke indica, I don't even get the stoned eyes. If I smoke sativa, my boss is going to know if I'm high or not, for sure.
Would she care though? Would she care?
Have them. Yeah, I always have them. So I mean, it depends. Like some people, you know, like they get the dark circles under their eyes, and they always have those. And I mean, it's just, again, it's how your body reacts to certain things. Like
I'd say if anything, it's probably genetic.
Yeah, it's like drinking alcohol too. Like sometimes you can tell because people have bloodshot eyes right away, and other times someone could be like 10 deep and you have no clue because their eyes are perfectly like bright and white.
Right.
Okay. Do different strains cause different munchies?
Yep. Yeah, like
This is not a listener. That is not a listener question. That is a Jesse question. 100%.
For a friend.
But it's good because you will learn, like when you get into this a little bit more, you start to talk about terpenes, which is like the plant's natural
essential oils.
Essential oils, basically, is the easiest way to explain it. And so the combination of those oils is what like really attracts you to different plant types, right? So I will look for strains that have humulene in it, and that's because it doesn't give me the munchies. I don't want to sit around and be eating a ton of food all the time because it's almost summer. You're gonna have to get in a bathing suit. So I want to be high, but I don't want the munchies. So humulene is like my best friend right now.
What is that word?
Yeah, we'll spell it out for you. It's HUMULENE.
But you're taking notes for the listener, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Humulene is found in a lot of other plants, but it does generally act as a natural appetite suppressant. And then there are other terpenes. If your listeners want to look it up, just Google the word terpene. TERPENE. And that's basically the essential oils that interact with THC when you're smoking or inhaling or whatever. And each terpene has different effects on the brain and therefore how you experience the cannabis.
It's called the entourage effect. Like all those different terpenes will give you different highs. It's great.
When we reopen the store, you'll be able to actually get a whole terpene education, because in our stores we actually have terpene bars.
Terpene bars for people to smell and they understand, so they learn a bit more.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Please invite us to that. And Entourage, also a great show to watch while you're high.
Yeah,
there you go.
Because we're got the Zoom meetings counting us down, is about to kick us out soon. Just so you guys are doing curbside pickup and deliveries right now, what if people have questions? How can they reach you? What's the best way to ask?
You know what? They call, they come up to the door, and there's still someone there that they can talk to behind plexi, but we still help them out that way. Curbside is so great. Online ordering is so great because people can get it done and it's efficient. But because this is a new industry, we still want to be as available as possible. So there's on our website, there is an email address you can go to. There's a telephone number there you can call. We're always answering our phone. Yeah. We're trying to be as accessible as possible right now.
Absolutely. If you want to call us while you're ordering, even on and just ask us questions about the things you're adding to your cart, do it. We're happy to answer anything.
Totally.
I'm glad you said that. And you guys are so friendly and approachable. And I joke that it's kind of like a sex shop where it's intimidating. People are they want to go in and they're horny, but they don't know what to ask for. And, it can be scary. So don't be afraid. Christian and Nikki, they've got your sex or your hobo needs. Oh, God.
We got you covered.
You know what I mean.
There's a screen for that.
Yeah, there is. Really, there is.
Oh, thank you guys so much for joining us. This was very educational.
No problem.
This was fun. This is great. Yeah, we'll come back anytime.
Yeah.
All right. And if there's
you have tequila for us.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Oh, definitely.
Or at least wine. And hey, Jenna, maybe if this radio thing doesn't work out, we know where we can apply for jobs.
Hell yes.
100%.
Yeah.
We'd have a beer anytime.
Have a good one, guys. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.